The Cytherian plague was getting worse every day. What started as a small outbreak on their homeworld had spread to 12 different planets. Dr. Yelhan was the chief medical officer for the entire Cytherian species. She had studied medicine for 40 years and had never seen anything this bad. The disease attacked the Cytherian nervous system. It made their green skin turn yellow and caused severe pain in their small bodies. Worst of all, it was spreading faster than any treatment. They tried. Traditional Cytherian medicine was not working. They needed the advanced biotechnology that only humans had developed. Dr. Yelhan remembered working with human doctors 5 years ago during a different health crisis. The humans had created a new type of medicine that could change itself to fight different diseases. They called it adaptive therapy. It was like having a smart medicine that learned how to beat whatever sickness it found. But now all the human medical companies were gone. All the human research labs were empty. All the human doctors who knew how to make adaptive therapy had disappeared with their species. The Cytherians had to watch their people die while knowing that the cure existed somewhere beyond their reach. In Puai, plague spread to other species too. The Manthan traders who visited Cytherian worlds brought the disease back to their own planets. The Rigelian diplomats who had meetings with Cytherian officials got sick and carried the infection home. Soon 6 different species were dealing with the same terrible sickness. Engineer Torsen of the Vorten Collective was having his own crisis. The quantum communication network that connected all Vorten worlds was failing piece by piece. Messages that used to take seconds to send now took hours or days. Sometimes messages never arrived at all. Torsen worked day and night trying to understand what was wrong. The hardware was all working fine. The quantum transmitters were operating normally. The problem was in the software that controlled everything. The adaptive algorithms that managed the network traffic were slowly breaking down. These algorithms were based on human artificial intelligence research. They used something humans called machine learning to get better over time, but without human programmers to guide them. The algorithms were learning the wrong things. They were making mistakes and then learning from their mistakes, which made them make bigger mistakes. The Vorthans were supposed to be the most logical species in the galaxy. Their gray brains could process information faster than anyone else. But they thought in straight lines, while human programming was full of curves and creative solutions. Every time they tried to fix the algorithms, they made the system worse. Captain Steve Mitchell was monitoring alien communications from humanity's secret base beyond the galactic rim. His job was to listen to alien radio signals and figure out what was happening in the space they had left behind. The news got worse every day. Steve's listening post picked up distress calls from dozens of worlds. Medical emergencies that could not be treated. Computer systems that were shutting down. Trade routes that were collapsing. Infrastructure that was falling apart without human maintenance and expertise. The human leadership had expected some problems after they left. But even they were surprised by how quickly things were breaking down. It turned out that humans had been involved in almost every part of galactic civilization. Their absence was like removing a major organ from a living body. On the Zephyrian colony world of Nexar 7, the atmospheric processors stopped working. These huge machines had been making the planet's air breathable for Zephyrians for 30 years. They converted the poisonous gases in the atmosphere into clean air that Zephyrian lungs could handle. The machines were incredibly complex. They used thousands of different components working together in precise coordination. The original design had come from human terraforming companies who were experts at making hostile worlds suitable for life. Chief Engineer Kextal tried to repair the atmospheric processors with his team of Zephyrian technicians. They could replace broken parts and follow basic maintenance procedures. But when something went wrong with the core programming, they were lost. The control systems used human coding methods that were impossible for Zephyrian minds to understand. Without working atmospheric processors, the colonists on Nexar 7 could not breathe the outside air. They had to stay inside sealed buildings and wear breathing masks when they went out. If the machines could not be fixed soon, the entire colony would have to be evacuated. This same problem was happening on 11 other Zephyrian colony worlds. All of them used atmospheric processors based on human technology. All of them were failing at the same time because they had not received proper maintenance since humans left. On the trade world of Nexus Prime Administrator Velkar watched galactic commerce slow down to almost nothing. Nexus Prime was supposed to be the busiest trade center in this part of the galaxy. Ships from dozens of species came here to buy and sell goods, but now the cargo docks were mostly empty. The few alien ships that still came had to wait days for their paperwork to be processed. The automated systems that used to handle thousands of transactions per day were making errors and causing delays. Velkar realized that humans had been running most of the trade logistics for the entire galaxy. Their shipping companies had the best routes and the fastest delivery times. Their financial systems had made it easy for different species to trade with each other, even when they used different types of money. Without human expertise, trade between worlds became slow and expensive. It took longer to move goods from one planet to another. Prices went up because transportation costs were higher. Some remote colonies stopped getting supplies altogether because it was not profitable to deliver goods to them anymore. Dr. Nina Brooks was analyzing all this information from humanity's new home beyond the stars. Her research had predicted that alien civilization would have problems without humans, but even she was shocked by how fast everything was falling apart. Nina's studies showed that humans had accidentally become the glue that held galactic society together. They were the species that other aliens called when they needed help solving problems. They were the ones who invented new technologies that everyone else used. They were the mediators who settled disputes between different groups. The galaxy had become dependent on human problem-solving abilities, without anyone realizing it was happening. Now that humans were gone, the other species were discovering how much they had relied on human innovation and creativity. The Rigelian Empire was facing food shortages because their agricultural worlds used human-designed farming equipment. The Centauri Federation could not maintain their space elevators because the control systems were too complicated for their engineers to understand. The Andromedan Republic was dealing with power failures because their fusion reactors needed human-made components. Every day brought news of more systems failing across alien space. The proud species who had voted to restrict human expansion were learning what they had really accomplished. They had not put humans in their place. They had removed the foundation that their entire civilization was built on. 6 months passed since humans left the galaxy. Captain Rethtar of the Catherian Trade Guild was confused. His cargo ship, the Bright Wind, usually followed routes that humans had set up years ago. These routes connected different alien worlds in the smartest way possible. They saved time and fuel for everyone. But now something was wrong. Rethtar tried to contact the human space stations that helped ships navigate between worlds. No one answered his calls. He sent messages to human ports asking for permission to dock and refuel. The messages came back saying the addresses did not exist anymore. Rethtar was a good ship captain. He had been flying cargo between worlds for 30 years. He knew every trade route in this part of the galaxy, but without the human navigation help, his trips took much longer. He had to stop more often for fuel. His cargo arrived late to alien customers who were not happy about waiting. The Catherian was not the only one having problems. Other alien ship captains talked on the space radio about similar troubles. Human freight companies had stopped carrying goods between worlds. Human logistics experts who planned the best shipping routes were gone. Trade was getting harder every day. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Prime Minister Zexhai felt very pleased with himself. The annoying humans had finally accepted that other species were better than them. Zexhai spent his mornings reading reports that proved Zephyrian superiority. He spent his afternoons giving speeches about how the galaxy was more orderly without human chaos. But his trade minister Velkan brought news that made Zexhai's forearms shake with anger. The trade numbers were going down every month. Zephyrian merchants could not get the goods they needed from other worlds. Medical supplies were running low in Zephyrian hospitals. The advanced electronics that Zephyrian factories needed were not arriving on schedule. Velkan explained that humans had been the biggest makers of these important goods. Quantum processors that made computers work better had all come from human factories. Adaptive AI systems that helped run space stations were human designs. Even the medical equipment that saved Zephyrian lives was built by human companies. Zexhai did not want to hear this. He told Velkan that other species could make these things just as well as humans. He said Zephyrian scientists were smart enough to build their own quantum processors. He ordered his people to stop buying anything that humans used to make. Captain Betty Coleman had been the last human representative at Crossroads Station. This was a big space station where many different species came to trade goods and share information. Betty had worked there for 8 years, helping solve problems between different alien groups. When Betty did not come back for her usual supply run, the station administrator Glixtor got worried. Glixtor was a manthan with 6 legs and green skin. He had always liked Betty because she was fair and honest in her business deals. Glixtor sent a probe ship to check on the human worlds in nearby space. The probe had cameras and sensors that could detect life and activity on planets. When the probe came back, its data confused Glixtor very much. The probe had found empty space where busy human colonies used to be. Worlds that once had millions of humans living on them showed no signs of life. Space stations that used to be full of human workers were completely dark. It was like humans had never existed at all. Meanwhile, far beyond the edge of known galaxy, Admiral Chris Roberts stood on the command deck of a massive construction ship. Around him, hundreds of human vessels worked together to build something that had never been tried before. They were creating a completely new kind of civilization in empty space between the stars. The humans had not just run away from alien space. They had planned this move for years. Human scientists had found ways to build cities in space without needing planets. Human engineers had designed ships that could make everything humans needed, from asteroid minerals and solar energy. Chris watched as automated factories assembled new space habitats. These rotating structures would house millions of humans. They had artificial gravity and controlled weather. They had gardens and lakes and even small mountains inside them. Humans were building a new home that was better than anything they had left behind. Dr. Nina Brooks worked in a research lab on one of the construction ships. She was studying all the information humans had gathered about alien biology over the decades. Nina had made an important discovery about how different species in the galaxy depended on each other. She found that humans had become like a keystone species in the galactic ecosystem. Just like how removing wolves from a forest causes deer to overpopulate and eat all the plants, humans played a crucial role that other species did not understand. Humans had been the species that connected different groups and helped them work together. Nina's research showed that alien species had slowly become dependent on human problem-solving skills. When different aliens could not agree on something, humans had always found a way to make everyone happy. When alien technology broke down, humans had always figured out how to fix it. When alien economies had troubles, humans had always created new solutions. Back in alien space, the first real problems were starting to show. On the world Kith Prime, where the Kitherians lived, a new disease was spreading. The Kitherian doctors tried their best to stop it, but they did not have the right medicines. All the advanced treatments for this type of sickness had come from human medical companies. The disease made Kitherians very weak and unable to work. It spread from city to city across their homeworld. Soon it jumped to other Kitherian colonies on different planets. The Kitherian government asked other species for medical help, but no one knew how to treat this particular illness. Engineer Torsen of the Vorthan Collective noticed that their quantum communication network was acting strange. Messages between Vorthan worlds were taking longer to send. Sometimes messages got corrupted and came out wrong. The network had been working perfectly for 50 years, but now it was slowly breaking down. Torsen discovered that the network used adaptive algorithms that learned and improved themselves over time. These algorithms were based on human computer science research. Without human programmers to maintain and update the code, the system was gradually forgetting how to work properly. The Vorthans tried to fix the network themselves, but their logical thinking was too rigid. They could not understand the creative and flexible programming methods that humans had used. Every attempt to repair the system made it work worse than before. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the last ships leave Earth. The blue planet got smaller as hundreds of human ships jumped into hyperspace. This was the biggest move any species had ever made in the galaxy. Every human was leaving their homeworlds at the same time. Jake had been a ship captain for 20 years. He had seen many battles and peace talks. He had visited alien worlds and met strange creatures, but he had never seen anything like this day. Humanity was walking away from everything they had built among the stars. 3 months ago, the Galactic Council passed a new law called Resolution 847 Delta. The law said humans could not build new colonies. It said human ships had to pay huge taxes to travel between worlds. It said humans could only trade certain goods with other species. The aliens thought they were teaching humans a lesson about staying in their place. The Zephyrians led the vote against humans. These tall blue aliens with 4 arms believed they were the smartest species in the galaxy. Their leader, Prince Zarthek, had spoken for hours about how dangerous humans were. He said humans grew too fast and wanted too much power. The other aliens nodded and agreed. The Vorthon Collective also voted against humans. These gray aliens, with big heads, thought only with cold logic. They calculated that humans were a threat to galactic order. Their computer models showed that humans would control too much space in 50 years, so they decided to stop humans now. Even the peaceful Catherians voted yes on the resolution. These small green aliens usually help settle disputes between species, but they were scared of human expansion too. They worried that humans would take over their trade routes and medical research. Commander Lisa Parker worked from Luna Base near Earth. She was in charge of sending the secret message to every human colony. The message had a code name called Project Homecoming. It told all humans to pack only what they needed and leave quietly. Do not make the aliens angry. Do not start any fights. Just go. Lisa had worked with aliens for 15 years. She spoke 7 different alien languages. She had helped write trade agreements and peace treaties. She knew the aliens well enough to see what was coming next. If humans stayed, they would face worse treatment, maybe even war. Dr. Alex Turner was the head of human diplomats. He had the job of telling the Galactic Council that humans were leaving. Alex walked into the Great Council chamber on the space station called Unity. Representatives from 43 species sat in their special chairs. The room was huge and filled with different colors of light for different alien eyes. Alex stood at the speaking platform. His voice was calm and clear. He said humans thanked the galactic community for their guidance over the years. He said humanity would withdraw from all galactic affairs to focus on internal development. He said humans would no longer be part of the Galactic Council or any galactic organizations. The alien representatives looked surprised. They had expected humans to argue and fight. They thought humans would beg to stay or make threats. Instead, humans were just leaving without a fight. Prince Zarthek of the Zephyrians stood up. His 4 arms moved as he spoke. He said humans were being wise for once. He said this was proof that the resolution was working. The other Zephyrians in the chamber made clicking sounds with their mouths. This was how they showed they were happy. The Vorthon representative just stared with her big black eyes. She was calculating what this meant. Humans leaving was not in any of their computer models. This was something new and unexpected. Back on the human ships, Jake watched Earth disappear completely. He felt sad but also proud. Humans were not running away scared. They had a plan. For months, human scientists and engineers had been preparing for this day. They had found new worlds far from alien space. They had built secret supply routes and hidden bases. Dr. Nina Brooks was on one of the colony ships heading to the edge of the galaxy. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. Nina had discovered something important about how life worked in the galaxy. She had learned that many alien species depended on each other in ways they did not understand. Humans had become part of this web of life without knowing it. The human evacuation took 6 weeks. Every human colony packed up and left. Every human research station shut down. Every human trade post closed. Human merchant ships stopped visiting alien worlds. Human doctors stopped treating alien patients. Human engineers stopped fixing alien machines. The aliens celebrated as humans disappeared. They thought they had solved a big problem. They believed the galaxy would be more peaceful without humans causing trouble. They were sure that other species could do all the jobs humans had been doing. Jake's ship was one of the last to leave human space. He looked at his crew. There was pilot Amy Chen, who could fly through any asteroid field. There was engineer Bob Martinez, who could fix anything that broke. There was Dr. Karen Johnson, who had saved hundreds of alien lives. These were good people who had only tried to help. As the Liberty jumped to hyperspace, Jake thought about what came next. Humans were not giving up. They were going somewhere new to build something better. The aliens would learn what they had lost, but it would take time for them to understand their mistake. The galaxy seemed quieter after humans left. Trade moved slower. Sick aliens had to wait longer for treatment. Broken machines stayed broken longer. But the aliens did not notice these small problems at first. They were too busy celebrating their victory over the troublesome humans who had finally learned their place in the universe. Ambassador Rachel Stone was working in her office on the human colony ship New Horizon when the message arrived. It had been 18 months since humanity left galactic space. This was the first time any alien government had tried to contact them since their departure. The message came from the Galactic Council Emergency Committee. Rachel read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. It was not the angry demand she expected. Instead, it was a plea for help. The Catherian plague had spread to 15 species now. Millions of aliens were dying, and their doctors could not stop it. The message admitted that human medical technology was more advanced than anyone had realized. It asked if human doctors could provide assistance as a humanitarian gesture. It promised that any humans who helped would be given full diplomatic immunity and safe passage through alien space. Rachel took the message to Admiral Chris Roberts and the other human leaders. They discussed what to do for hours. Some wanted to ignore the aliens completely. Others felt they should help prevent a galactic catastrophe even if the aliens had treated humans badly. General Paul Hayes was in charge of monitoring galactic security from humanity's hidden bases. His job was to watch for threats that might affect human safety. What he saw happening in alien space was worse than anyone expected. 3 different wars had started in the past 6 months. The Orion Confederation was fighting the Tau Ceti Alliance over mining rights that humans used to help them share peacefully. The Vegan Empire had invaded 2 smaller species who could not defend themselves without human peacekeeping forces to protect them. The worst conflict was between the Altair Republic and the Draco systems. These 2 groups had been enemies for centuries until human diplomats helped them sign a peace treaty 50 years ago. Now that the human mediators were gone, old hatreds were flaring up again. Paul's intelligence reports showed that the wars were getting more violent every week. Species that had lived in peace for decades were using weapons they had not touched in generations. Entire planets were being bombed back into primitive conditions. Billions of aliens were fleeing their homes as refugees. Without human peacekeepers to separate the fighting groups, these wars could spread across the whole galaxy. Many species were choosing sides based on old alliances. What started as local conflicts was turning into a galactic civil war. The Vorthon Collective was facing their own disaster. Their quantum communication network had failed completely in 3-star systems. Vorthon colonies in those areas were cut off from the rest of their civilization. They had no way to call for help or receive supplies. High Commander Jexal of the Vorthons had always believed that logic could solve any problem. But their greatest computer minds could not understand the creative programming methods that humans used. Every logical solution they tried made their network problems worse. The Vorthons sent increasingly desperate messages on every frequency they could find. They offered to share their most advanced technology with humans in exchange for help fixing their communications. They promised humans permanent trading rights and full citizenship in Vorthon space. Commander Ben Foster was compiling reports about environmental disasters across alien worlds. His data showed that 17 planets were dealing with ecological collapse. The carefully balanced ecosystems were falling apart without human environmental engineers to maintain them. On Rigel 4, the forests were dying because the atmospheric recycling plants had stopped working properly. The trees that provided oxygen for the planet were turning brown and falling down. Soon the Rigelians who lived there would not be able to breathe their own air. The ocean world of Aquatica was experiencing massive fish die-offs. The underwater cities there depended on sea life for food and oxygen production. Human marine biologists had been managing the ocean ecosystems for decades. Without their expertise, the entire planetary food chain was collapsing. Even worse problems were happening on worlds where humans had helped with terraforming projects. These planets had been made suitable for alien life through careful environmental engineering. Now the artificial ecosystems were breaking down and reverting to their original hostile conditions. The Zephyrian Empire was dealing with rebellions on their outer colonies. Without atmospheric processors to make the air breathable, colonists were demanding evacuation back to safer worlds. But the Zephyrian government did not have enough ships to move millions of people. Prince Zarthek, who had led the vote against humans, was now facing angry crowds outside his palace. Zephyrian citizens were demanding to know why their government had driven away the species that kept their technology working. Some were calling for Zarthek to step down from power. In a shocking move, Prince Zarthek appeared on galactic television to make a public statement. His forearms shook as he spoke about the crisis facing Zephyrian colonies. For the first time in his life, he admitted that the Zephyrians had made a mistake. The proud prince said that Zephyrian intelligence had underestimated how important humans were to galactic stability. He formally apologized for supporting Resolution 847 Delta. He asked humanity to return and help save Zephyrian colonies from environmental collapse. But the apology came too late. While Zarthek was giving his speech, the colony on Nexar 7 was being evacuated. The atmospheric processors had finally shut down completely. 3 million Zephyrians had to abandon their homes and crowd into refugee ships heading back to safer worlds. Similar evacuations were happening across Zephyrian space. 12 colony worlds were no longer safe to live on. The great Zephyrian Empire that had ruled dozens of star systems for centuries was shrinking back to just a few homeworlds that could support life naturally. The trade networks that connected different parts of the galaxy were completely broken now. Without human logistics companies to coordinate shipping, most goods never reached their destinations. Planets that depended on food imports were running out of supplies. The free trade agreements that humans had helped negotiate were falling apart too. Different species were imposing tariffs and trade restrictions on each other. Some were refusing to trade at all with former allies. The economic cooperation that had made all species wealthier was disappearing. Captain Rethtar of the Catherian Trade Guild had finally given up trying to run cargo between different worlds. His last 3 shipping runs had lost money because the routes took too long and cost too much fuel. He parked his cargo ship Brightwind at a space dock and looked for other work. Thousands of other alien ship captains were doing the same thing. The merchant marine that had carried goods across the galaxy was shutting down. Only local trade between nearby worlds was still profitable. The galactic economy was breaking into small, isolated pieces. On the monitoring stations beyond the galactic rim, human observers watched civilization collapse in the space they had once called home. Some felt sad about the suffering they saw. Others felt angry that aliens had brought this disaster on themselves. All of them wondered what would be left of galactic society when the collapse finally stopped. President Carol Martin stood before the assembly of human colony leaders on the capital ship New Earth. 2 years had passed since humanity left galactic space. Now she had to decide whether they should go back. The choice would affect billions of humans and change the future of the galaxy. The offers from alien governments kept getting better every day. The Galactic Council had sent their most important diplomats to negotiate with humanity. They promised complete restoration of all human rights. They offered favorable trade agreements that would make human companies very wealthy. They agreed to recognize human territorial claims to dozens of star systems. But Carol knew the real situation. The aliens were not offering these things because they liked humans. They were desperate. Their civilization was falling apart without human help and expertise. The proud species who had once looked down on humans were now begging for their return. Dr. Kevin Walsh presented his analysis to the Human Leadership Council. Kevin was an expert on galactic economics and politics. His job was to figure out exactly what had happened since humans left and what it would take to fix the problems. Kevin's report was shocking even to human leaders who thought they understood their importance to galactic society. The galaxy had lost about 30% of its total technological capability. Manufacturing output was down by half. Medical research had stopped completely in some areas. Scientific progress had slowed to almost nothing. 43 worlds were dealing with environmental collapse that threatened all life on those planets. The economic damage would take decades to repair, even if everything was fixed immediately. Some alien species had lost so much population to disease and war that they might never recover their former strength. The report showed that humans had not just been participants in galactic civilization, they had been the species that made modern galactic civilization possible. Their creativity and problem-solving abilities had been the engine that drove progress for everyone else. Admiral Sam Carter was in charge of planning humanity's potential return to galactic space. Sam had been preparing for this possibility since the Exodus began. She knew that humans could not just go back to the way things were before. Too much had changed. Sam proposed humanity's terms for return to the alien governments. First, humans wanted full voting rights on the Galactic Council with the power to veto any resolution that affected human interests. Second, all existing restrictions on human expansion and trade had to be permanently removed. Third, aliens had to provide protection for human colonies and guarantee human territorial rights. The terms also included something new that had never existed before. Humans wanted formal recognition of their role as galactic mediators and peacekeepers. Any disputes between alien species would have to include human arbitrators. Any major technological projects would need human engineering oversight. Some alien governments complained that these terms gave humans too much power, but they had no choice except to agree. Without human help, their worlds would continue to collapse. Their people would keep dying from diseases that human doctors could cure. Their technology would keep breaking down without human maintenance. Lieutenant Grace Evans was monitoring alien communications from her post on the surveillance ship Observer. Her job was to track what different alien governments were saying to each other about the human return. What she found was very interesting. Many alien species were now competing to offer the best deals to humanity. The Rigelians promised to share their mining technology with humans. The Centauri offered to make humans equal partners in their space exploration projects. Even the proud Andromedans were offering to pay tribute to humanity in exchange for technical assistance. Some aliens had learned their lesson about human importance. They were planning to treat humans as honored partners instead of annoying competitors. Others were already thinking about how to limit human power once the immediate crisis was over. Grace made notes about which species could be trusted and which ones might cause problems later. The final decision about returning to galactic space was made during a referendum among all human colonies. Every adult human got to vote on whether their species should go back to alien space. The vote was close, but the majority chose to return with conditions. Many humans wanted to stay in their new home beyond the galactic rim. Life was peaceful there. They had built beautiful cities in space that were better than anything in alien territory. They did not have to deal with alien politics and prejudice. They could focus on human development and exploration. But other humans felt responsible for helping prevent a complete galactic collapse. They argued that humanity had a duty to help other species, even if those species had treated them badly. They said humans should use this opportunity to make the galaxy a better place for everyone. Captain Jake Morrison, who had commanded the last ship to leave Earth now, had the honor of commanding the first ship to return. His cruiser Liberty led a fleet of 50 human vessels back toward alien space. Behind them came the ships carrying doctors and engineers and diplomats who would help rebuild galactic civilization. Jake felt different emotions as his ship approached the first alien world they had seen in 2 years. He was proud that humanity was returning as equals instead of subjects. He was worried about whether aliens would keep their promises once the crisis was over. He was excited about the chance to explore the galaxy again. The alien world of Nexus. Prime appeared on the Liberty's view screen. The great space station looked different than Jake remembered. Many of the docking bays were dark and empty. The busy traffic of ships coming and going had slowed to just a few vessels per day. As the human fleet approached, Jake opened a communication channel to the station. His voice was calm and professional when he spoke. He said this was Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Federation, and that humans had come home. The response from the station was immediate and full of relief. Station Administrator Velkar himself came on the radio to welcome the human fleet. His voice was shaking with emotion as he thanked them for returning. He said docking bays would be cleared immediately for human ships. He promised that humans would receive the best treatment the station could provide. The news of humanity's return spread across the galaxy faster than their ships could travel. On worlds where aliens were dying from the plague, medical teams prepared to receive human doctors and their advanced treatments. On colonies where life support was failing, engineers got ready to learn from human technical experts. Not everyone was happy about the human return. Some alien military leaders worried that humans would use their new power to take revenge for past treatment. Some politicians feared that their own people would prefer human leadership to their traditional rulers. But most aliens felt hope for the first time in 2 years. The species that had kept their civilization working was coming back. The problems that seemed impossible to solve would finally be fixed. The galaxy might return to the peace and prosperity they had enjoyed before humans left. As Admiral Morrison's fleet entered alien space again, humanity began the next chapter of their story among the stars. They were no longer the junior species, learning from older civilizations. They were the partners that everyone needed to survive and prosper in a dangerous galaxy.